So Bubba, Earl, and Jeb, they got lost. They find themselves walking past the cemetery, and past a little bit of the time, they figure, well, let's just read some of the markers. So Bubba says, I'll go first. He says here, this God bless his soul, made it to the ripe old age of 87. Jeb said, well, what was his name? James Francis Jones. Earl says, well, I got one over here, says, this guy made it to 95. Really, says Jeb? What was his name? He says, William Horatio Smith. And then Jeb says, but I got one better than you guys. Says right here on this marker, this guy was 145. Bubba says, that can't be. 145? What was his name? Miles from Chicago. Oh, yeah, okay, hey, don't worry. Let me just fold this up here quick. Yeah, I can do this, don't worry. Yeah, some of you, yeah, you wonder, can you get, there it is. Fold it up perfect. See, one of my classes in college was Map Folding 101. Took it the same semester as I did underwater basket weaving. Maps, oh man, these things, oh, some of you don't use them anymore, huh? You just punch it into that GPS. There's a problem with that, though. You see, you depend on that GPS, and it just tells you, go here, just turn there, and you never really quite know where you are, do you? You can find yourself, if the GPS isn't working, it's like, I have no idea where I am or where I'm going. Some of you have felt that way as we're going through this book of Acts together in our 50 days through the book of Acts. A number of you have mentioned last week that you're visual learners and you'd like to see where we're going on a map so it makes more sense. We're going to do that today. We're going to spend some time looking at where we are and where we're going. You know, one of the things that God taught me some decades ago was I needed to learn to enjoy the journey, not just the destination. That was an important lesson for me, and I'm hoping that you are enjoying our 50-day journey through the book of Acts. I want you to enjoy every part of it. Now, some of the feedback last week said that you really wanted to see some maps, to get an idea, to be able to, especially for the visual learners, to get a picture of where we're going, where we are. Well, let's look first at the big picture. Here it is, the world. This is the world. Now, I just need to make one thing clear. No, I don't think the world is flat. You can see all the continents this way. And the area that we're going to be zeroing in on is right in the middle, north of Africa, south of Europe, right there. That's referred to as the Middle East. It's also called the area of the Mediterranean Sea, and also known 2,000 years ago as the Roman Empire. Here's a close-up of the Mediterranean Sea. You see Africa and the countries of Egypt, Libya, Algeria. They're on the bottom of the map. And up on the top, of course, is Europe, with Greece and Italy in the middle, Spain and France over on the left side, and the area of Turkey on the right. But 2,000 years ago, things were labeled a little different. These are the Roman provinces built around the Mediterranean Sea. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, another little red box. That, of course,
is the land of Israel. Now let's take a little closer look at that, shall we? You see in the middle of Israel, the area of Jerusalem, and off to the east of that, the Dead Sea. As we make our way north, the region of Galilee is built around the Sea of Galilee. Going even further north, 135 miles from Jerusalem, that's how far Saul chased the Christians until he got saved in Damascus. And of course, that's when he began his first mission, preaching immediately and spending 3 years there in Damascus, Syria, off to the east of that in the Arabian desert in the kingdom of the Nabateans, and then coming back down to Jerusalem. From Jerusalem he went in and out, preaching in all the cities of Judea. As you remember, mission 2 of Saul took him from Jerusalem to Caesarea, where he was commissioned as the Apostle Paul, and made his way 300 miles north to the city of Tarsus, his hometown, and the most important university city in the entire Roman Empire. He would spend 10 years ministering in Tarsus, as well as Cilicia and Syria. From there, the Apostle Barnabas sought out the Apostle Paul and brought him to Antioch to help disciple the incredible influx of Gentile believers. Altogether, Paul spent 3 years of his ministry time there in the city of Antioch, the third largest city in the entire Roman world. That brings us to where we're reading now, mission number 4, as Paul and Barnabas are commissioned by the believers of Antioch to continue to reach further into the Gentile world. They make their way from Antioch, sailing to the island of Cyprus, crossing from Salamis to Paphos, preaching in city after city as they go. They then took a ship to Perga, and in Perga, that's the area where Paul likely caught malaria. They continued up to Antioch Pisidia. There they started a church, but were experiencing persecution and invited to leave the city. They went over to Iconium, started another church, and were persecuted there as well. They made their way down to Lystra, started another church, and that is where Paul ends up being stoned and left for dead. God raises him back up, and Saul and Barnabas make their way to Derbe, preaching and starting another church. They then begin to backtrack from Derbe back to Lystra, back to Iconium, back to Antioch Pisidia, appointing elders in all of the cities. And one more opportunity to preach in the Roman province of Pamphylia. Paul preaches at Attalia. They then cross the sea back to Antioch of Syria and report to the believers the incredible work of the Gentiles. They covered 1,500 miles over the 2-year period of time, and Paul then wrote the book of Galatians. Also coming up in this week's reading, we'll join Paul and Barnabas taking a 300-mile trek down to Jerusalem. That's 300 miles each way, walking. Yeah. There are Jewish believers complaining about the Gentiles being saved and not being circumcised. You'll read some really neat things. I trust you'll enjoy that. And then when we get to chapter 15 and verse 40, Paul and Barnabas head out separate ways once again to reach out to the Gentile world. We'll share more about that next week. In the meantime, though, I want to just encourage you again. We started talking tonight about enjoying the journey. That's an important lesson, not just for our 50 days through the book of Acts, but life in general. The journey itself can be, as you've read and will continue to read,
it can be hard at times. I remember the song from Pam Thumb. Life is hard, but God is good. You might want to give that a listen. As you go into your small groups now, this will give you a wonderful time for some great discussion items to chat about. We'll also remind you Sunday is question and answer, part number 2. I'm looking forward to spending that time with you.